Welcome back to day 6 of 100 days of VBA. Now today we're starting off exactly where we finished yesterday. So we've got our dynamic selection code here, and today we're going to update this last bit to dynamically find the last row in our process data sheet and always insert however many rows and columns we have into the next empty row. So if I run this now, you'll see that it works. We get our next 5 items, but that's actually not all the data we have in this sheet, even though we are now selecting it all. So there's 2 things we need to do. First, we need to find the next empty row. So dim target row as integer. So that's defining a variable for our target row number as an integer. We're also going to declare 2 more variables for data rows and data columns. So this is going to be the number of rows and columns that our data actually has, and they're both going to be integers as well. Cool. Now to find the number of rows and columns in our data, we're going to use a built-in function called UBound. So let's put data rows equals UBound. And in the brackets for UBound, we're just going to put data to move, so our variable name. So UBound just finds the length of our array data. So array data is when we have a grid. So we've got a 2-dimensional array because we've got rows and columns. And to find our columns, we're going to use the same function, but with an extra bit of information. So data to move. But this time we're going to put 2. So that means look at the second dimension of our variable. So the first dimension is our number of rows, and the second dimension is our number of columns. Because remember, if we step in and get our data to move variable, you can see our first dimension is the number of rows. You can see our 7 rows, and our second dimension is our number of columns, our 4 columns. So if we keep stepping through, you can see we've now got our data rows and columns variable. And if we step through until there, you can see we have 7 data rows and 4 data columns. So that's perfect. And I'll reset that. Next, we need to find our first empty row. So we're going to do another with statement here because we're going to be working with our process data worksheet now. So worksheets, and then processed data, and put the end with there as well. So now we've got a block working with our worksheet, our process data sheet. So our target row is going to be dot cells. So remember, because we're in our with block, we can go straight to dot cells. We don't need to put application dot worksheets process data dot cells dot find. Then we're going to put an asterisk to find any text. Our search order is again going to be Excel by rows, and our search direction is going to be Excel previous as before. Dot row on the end. So that's found our last row of data, but we want the next row. We want the first empty row, so we're not overwriting the bottom row. So on the end there, we're simply going to put +1. So now we have our target row, and we have the number of rows and the number of columns that we want to write, because we have selected this data. We want to find the next empty row in process data, so that's going to be row 12 here, and we want to write 7 rows and 4 columns. So if we count 7 rows and 4 columns, we want to select this range here to write our data to. So we're going to start at A12 and finish at D18. But we don't want to write A12 to D18 because we want to do it dynamically in the same way that we selected the data yesterday. So let's start with dot range. And remember, as we did up here, we're going to select this range by giving it cell numbers. So dot cells. And this time we know our row is going to be our target row. So we're going to use our target row variable there. And we know the start column is always going to be A. So we're going to put 1 there because we know that's A. And then our end cell. So again, cells. So this time we know it's going to be 7 rows down from our last row. So we're going to say target row plus data rows minus 1. Because otherwise, if we add the 7, we're going to have too many. And then for our last column, we're just going to put data columns. we're going to close our range, we're going to select its value, and we're going to make that data to move, our variable. And we can end our with and delete our old statement. So now, if we run this, so if I clear item 6 onwards, what's going to happen is we're going to add item 6 down to item 12 with the extra discount percentage now as well in the first empty row. So let's run our function. There we go, perfect. And if we run it again now, then you'll see we haven't overwritten the data, we've actually found the next empty row again and repeated our data. So if we delete all that and come in and say add another column here, so let's work out what the discounted price is. So $49.99 times 10%. And if we add, say, even another item, item 13 in category 3, that's going to cost $3.99 as a discount of 5%, and therefore a discount cost of about 20p. And now if I run this statement again, you can see in our process data, we've added all that data. So there you go. Now we've not only dynamically selected which data we want, we've dynamically placed it in a different sheet. So it doesn't matter what shape or size data we have, we can always use these techniques to move data around our spreadsheets, either within one sheet or from one sheet to another.